Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for jumping on, and Dylan, appreciate you taking some time out of your day to come talk with us a little bit about the licensing process and your journey now into real estate from the agent side.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to jump in. I'm glad you guys invited me because, as a newer agent, it is a little bit more difficult. I mean, I came at it from the investor perspective already. So like I already have a few people that I know that are looking for properties around here. But yeah, no, just from start to finish on the agent process, I think the number one thing that seems to stop a lot of people when they start that pre-licensing course is just like the pre-licensing course itself and like getting through the content because you have a 90-hour course you have to get through. I didn't know that you actually don't have to complete a full 90 hours within the course. So I was studying every single page and taking notes on everything. And then one of my friends was like, dude, you got, like, I was a month in and he was like, dude, you got to stop that. Like, you're not going to want to finish this at all if you keep doing this. So what I ended up doing is, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this on like a recorded thing, but just skipping through to the review section of each chapter and then just reading that, taking the little quizzes that they have, and then getting through the tests. But when I really took it seriously was on the back end of finishing that 90-hour course. I went through and downloaded like all of the review pages and did a ton of flashcards and um, took a ton of like the practice quizzes because I used what is it? Calibri real estate. So I got the CompuCram thing that came with that had like a bunch of practice tests and everything. And I think that alone, like if you just, I don't want to tell people to not read any of the content, but like if you study the flashcards and everything, you can get through it pretty quickly without having to spend, months going through that dreadful course. Because I mean, let's be honest, as somebody that's been in the real estate space for a minute, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way after you've gone through that course, like there's a lot of stuff that you just don't use and it's not useful at all. And the sooner you can get on the other side of that and actually get your license, the sooner you can actually start learning what's applicable from the other agents in your office. And, if you're an investor already, I'm sure there's a lot of things that is going to be extremely boring having to read through and take notes on and study.
No, I mean, I think I can relate, at least in my own, journey. There's a lot that you learn in the course. And I was always told, for the most part, your course material is stuff to keep you out of jail and, not
Yeah.
in trouble. It doesn't necessarily teach you the skills necessary to be a agent or be a good agent for that matter. So, Dylan, remind us, what state or area are you in?
Yeah, I'm in Indianapolis, right on the east side of Indianapolis. Little far off. So like I know when people think of the east side of Indianapolis, or you guys probably don't have any preconceived notions of this place, but like when people think the east side, they think not very good. I'm in a town that's like 20 minutes outside of Indianapolis. The county is Hancock County. It's actually the fastest growing county in our state right now. Yeah, no, I think there was a few things that aligned for me with this area that really made it like one, I grew up here, but also like knowing the people in the area, it also being in the Midwest, so it's one of the more affordable places to invest in property. Like there were a lot of things that aligned for me from the start with getting into all this. So I will say there was like some luck there, but I mean, I feel like you can do it at any market because we see people getting creative, like Jared with his, rent by the rooms.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't know too much about the indie market or Indiana as a state for that matter. Most of my
Mhm.
focus has been really primarily in Ohio for Midwest stuff, but I'm down in the Greenville, South Carolina area. So got Craig up in Minneapolis. I'm down in South Carolina, so kind of a big range, and now we got you in the middle. So.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio's not far away. Like, we have houses in Shelbyville and Greensburg, Indiana as well, which is like an hour away from Cincinnati. So, like, I could be there from one of our houses in like an hour. Like, I don't know where you guys are investing in Ohio, but I know that's a popular one. And then I think Dayton is another one people like. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, no, that's a real good corridor right there between Dayton and Cincinnati. So
Well, also you got Louisville right there too, which like that whole area I would think is really nice. Just between Louisville, Cincy, and then like you got Evansville, Indiana down there too.
absolutely. Well, as far as your journey specifically, like what made you choose to get your license and kind of get into the business from the agent side right now?
Yeah, the reason I got my license, I think, might be a little bit different, but I feel like all of us have a little bit different of a reason that we do everything, with respect to like wanting to get our licenses, whether it's, using it to leave a W-2 and you want to mo work more on the brokerage side. I got it because I want to property manage for some investors in town. Ideally find, a couple 20 unit buildings or something like that to manage. That was the rationale behind getting my license. And then also the the ability to broker the transactions that I'm already working on. So instead of pulling in an agent that like has nothing to do with it or just closing it completely off market, and nobody getting paid, yeah, I figured since I'm already doing all the work to find some of these apartment buildings, I should probably be getting paid somehow, whether that was an assignment fee or, for example, this one that we were looking at, this deal fell through. But I mean, the way I structured it is, I was going to have a 3% commission on a property that we were purchasing for 3 million, and we were just adding 90,000 to the purchase price. So the seller still got that money at the end of the day, but my partners wouldn't have had to come out of pocket, or we wouldn't have had to raise additional money from LPs to buy the property, if that makes sense. Because it's really expensive to raise like the commission as equity when you can just like have it come out of the seller's pocket and they just get the money on the back end, when they get their check from the bank. Um, yeah. So more the investment route, if that makes sense. I never really envisioned like wanting to syndicate a ton of stuff. And I'm still not there yet, but I've just realized that real estate's a very expensive business to be in from the asset side, especially like looking at like apartment buildings and stuff like that. So every time I've had like $50,000 or more, I've thrown it into something, and I feel like I need to start raising money at some point from the people around me. In my indie market, I've got a few guys that have been wanting to do a deal with me, and yeah. So I just keep running out. So yeah, long way to answer your question, I guess, but just to be more involved in the transactions and property manage.
Yeah, in this state, you have to be licensed to do the property management, so that makes total sense. Are
Yep, same
you,
here.
yep, did you connect with a broker, did you say? Who's holding your license?
Yeah, so I'm with Real Brokerage right now. I picked them. I know they're a newer brokerage. I mean, I would compare them to an EXP, but the reason I chose them is because that's where all my friends work in town, and they own like contracting businesses and property management businesses, and they're also investors themselves. So it
So
felt
they'll
like,
let you property manage under their broker license.
yes, yes.
Okay, because they hold a lot of liability. So a lot of
Mhm.
brokers don't want you property managing. Because if
Gotcha.
something goes wrong where the owner doesn't get paid the rent, they're on the hook
Mhm.
for it.
Yeah, I know that my friend also, and I haven't started property management for other people yet, but he said he holds a secondary insurance as well for the property management company itself in case it gets sued or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's always kind of interesting to see the differences between states. Like in South Carolina, you have to get a specific license for property management. You don't just get a agent license, and then you can't hold an active agent license while you have an active PM license. It's one or the other. So
Wow.
you can't decide, oh, I want to go, self or property manage for somebody else. You can certainly self manage your own properties, and being an agent
Hmm.
that from a marketing perspective. But if you want to manage third party for other people, you're only managing third party. You're not brokering sales as well. So, um, but hey,
Really weird.
glad
Yeah.
that lets you cross over. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, as far as here, and I'm pretty sure this is how it is across the states. I mean, a sales like a sales license is a broker license. Like I know there used to be the salesperson, and then there was broker. So like it was a thing you graduate into, and then 2 years later you could become a managing broker if you want to. But I mean, here like you can do commercial, you can do residential, you can property manage with the license. You get all of it right away. There is no separation of salesperson and broker here.
Oh, you can have salespeople work under your license. You're actually a broker.
Yeah, I'm a broker. Just straight away, there is no say like we don't have a quote unquote real estate salesperson here. You just
Okay.
automatically get your broker license right off the bat.
Oh, no, there's yeah, you gotta work as a salesperson under a broker for many years here. Take
Mhm.
another 90 hours and then pass another test and
Oh wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
We got it laxed, I guess. I cannot
the
be a
Wild
managing
West there.
broker. Yeah. It's still 2 years until I can be a managing broker, which I don't even think I want to touch that because that's like not where I have the interest of like corralling agents and like helping them generate sales and stuff. I like the investment side a lot more.
Hmm.
So I see myself just, I'll probably keep the license forever, but I'm going to probably slowly use it less and less and just on our personal transactions after I do a few houses over the next few years because like I got the license to use it so I could jump from my W-2 to being an agent and an investor full time. So I do need to do something right now.
Are you planning on trying to acquire clients, to help out on the side while you're, still working your W-2 and trying to get your investments more rolling full time?
Yeah, so I totally just quit my job and jumped into the agent side. I do have a few rentals that pretty much equal my expenses plus a couple $100 every month. So that's good. But yeah, I just cut it off on April 1st and I jumped off on my own. So that's something I'm still trying to figure out is like the getting clients and everything like that. Like I signed up for a local RIA, and I'm gonna start going to that and see if I can push some people over the edge since I have a few doors now. Like that was my biggest thing when I was at the RIAs is like it's like a 90-10, and that's why I didn't like going there as an investor. Like 90% of people will never do anything and 10% of people do all of the transactions there. So see if I can like since I have experience doing it, just get more people out of that 90% to actually do a transaction. And I think just with my experience, I could show them like what I've done and what I think their numbers could be and that help them jump into it a little bit more. And then it also helps me out because I get to represent them.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, hey, congratulations. You're able to quit your job and, jump into this full time. So that's great.
Yeah, it was not without risk. I will tell you that. I saved up money for like the past 6 months and then like I said, my rentals just like barely cover all of my bills. But right now I'm GCing, well, not technically a GC. I'm managing and overseeing like 5 different construction projects for one of my friends. He has a bunch of houses here in Indy that are all getting renovated at once. So I'm kind of like working for him a little bit, just coordinating all the contractors and everything while I'm waiting to find some clients. So it's like I jumped from that to just picked up whatever I could do that involves like flipping or selling real estate or anything to get started. Whatever you have to do to make it happen.
Yeah, that investing world, there's a lot of different revenue streams you can do from the general contracting to handyman service to property management, selling houses. It's kind of a unique fit.
Hmm.
The traditional agent works in one realm, and that's kind of the retail side of buying, houses, the houses that don't need the work. The investor, we kind of work in the uglier side of the business. You get a lot of
Hmm.
dilapidated houses. Things aren't so cut and dry. You gotta get creative and figure things out. So you're doing it right. You gotta dive in and just, sink or swim.
Yeah, problems are what I like though. Like I hate seeing some of these listings on like Crexy and LoopNet and getting things from brokers where they're like, "Oh, I swear you're the only person I've showed this apartment building to." but it's like they've shopped this around to everybody that's bigger than me, and then they're showing me the deals too. And they're like, all you have to do is raise the rents. And I'm like, I think you guys are already close to market. Like, I'm not seeing the value add here. Like, I want to sense some problems when I'm walking into this, and I want to pay for those problems. Like, as in, I want to pick up an apartment building for like 65, 70 a door, not like where these guys are all trying to sell them around 100. It
What
just
kind of
doesn't make
rents do you
sense.
get out of the door, 65 or 70?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is a good point because everything's a ratio. I'm looking for around 1,000 to 1,100 is
Wow.
my goal. Yeah, because it's kind of like picking up a house for 65,000 and renting it out for $1,000 a month. Like that's pretty stellar, especially if you don't have to do a ton of work. Like some of these apartments are like the 12-plex I bought. Most of those apartments were already rent ready at like 65 a door. Now we did have people that were in the 600s and the 700s, but luckily we had a lot of people that had moved out before the sale because one reason or the other they were moving to a different neighborhood for their kids or they were you know they were just moving out for some other reason, and we got to actually move up like I think it's 6 or 7 of the units up to 1,000 within like the first 3 months of ownership, and I was pricing in like a year of just like eating it, making like 2 or 3%, and then we'd finally get to like 8 to 10% cash on cash. Well, we got that in like 3 months. Not very customary, but it happened. And then I mean that's a good thing about everybody being on a month-to-month lease too.
Yeah, you don't see those numbers in my market here. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
still
What are
wrapping
you
my
what are you
head.
seeing?
About 250,000 a door, and you're probably getting 1,800 tops for rent.
Is that a commercial property too?
Yep.
Wow. That's rough.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm looking at Zillow here just on your house prices, and
Uh-huh.
just you're down whereabouts?
Wait, did you say 1,800 for 250 on a commercial?
Yep.
So we just listed just for perspective on rent prices, I just listed a house that we just finished renovating. There is no rent control in Indy. I just saw that question pop in. Um, I just listed a house for rent in a Facebook group because Facebook groups are like my favorite way to get places rented out. Like you tend to get lower quality tenants from these groups, but like you usually get a ton so you can filter through them. So like not everybody's lower quality, but there's a lower
Hmm.
quality applicant base. Um, and people were flaming me in the comments for listing it for 1,800 for a 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, 2,200 square foot house that was freshly renovated with a garage and a fenced in backyard. So, just perspective on rent prices.
Yeah, a product like that I just rented for 3,600 a month.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get it there one day.
And there's no reason for it. I mean, we've got plenty of land like you do, right? It's
Yeah.
artificially controlled. Um, we choked off supply, so that drove house prices up.
I think
Um,
that's the issue a lot of places are having. Like, I feel like we could do a lot more development, but there tends to be a lot of government restrictions around like what we're allowed to do. Like, I'm doing a storage unit thing right now, and I have to wait a month to go speak in front of the zoning board, and they're like, "Well, there's only going to be 3 people here, and you need 3 people to approve, and normally there's 5. So if you want to come to the June one." You can speak at that one too. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is wrong? Yeah, so I have to wait 2 months to get an approval. And that's fast compared to what some of you guys deal with, like, on some of
mhm.
these projects, and other developers. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it sounds like you're in a good market where you can get a foothold in and get some properties going. So that's nice. And I'm
Yeah.
not in the worst market. I know you hear about the stories out of California. It's like that's insane. How do you make anything work there?
Yeah, I don't really like in investing in any states, like the idea of investing in states that aren't landlord friendly. I just think like I know there's some people that have counterpoints to that about how prices go higher and stuff like that, but I just like if somebody's not paying, I have the ability to go in front of the court and either evict them or have them work out a situation where they pay us off and we can get them out of there. or work out some sort of agreement. But I don't like these things where I see people get, stuck with a tenant that's non-paying for like a year, 2 years. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just scanning the market here real quick. I'm seeing a couple of places that you can get down around 110 per unit.
Yeah.
I don't know what the rents are in those neighborhoods. It's not the part of town I work in, so
Um, Well, also, are you looking on market? Because I can't find anything on market that works. Like even the pre-market stuff that the brokers bring to me, it's still
yeah.
at 90 a door. And I'm
Okay.
like, guys, we're about, I mean, the last one they brought me it was like 3.2 or 3.3 is what they wanted, and I was at like 2.6 million on what we could pay for it.
Okay. Yeah, this is all on market. So yeah, these aren't the deals you'd be shopping. Where are
No.
you finding your deals then?
So have you listened to Christian and Cody from Multifamily Strategy before?
No.
Okay, okay. So then this will actually be really helpful. So what I do is I call the owners in the area and I essentially just say that I'm a local real estate investor in X area. I can see that you own this property and this property and this property or whatever they own that are commercial properties and say, I am newer to the commercial space and I'd really love to take a few minutes to learn from you, like how you were able to build this portfolio. Would you have some time later this week where we could go meet at like Starbucks or something like that and we can just talk about how you were able to do this because you're where I want to be in like 10 or 20 years or whatever. Usually people really like that because people like to tell their story and talk about themselves.
Hmm.
So there's really two wins there. Like one, they actually get to teach somebody, and we know that real estate investors they really love to share and teach other people about what they're doing, but then also you get to learn how this person was able to accomplish building this portfolio. And if they like you enough, generally they'll be willing to sell you something at some point too. Some of them won't be right away, but you will run into people if you do this enough where you'll find people that do want to sell and they're cool with selling now. And I just got really lucky with one guy, and he wanted to sell immediately. I asked him like, hey, like the next 3 to 5 years, if you want to sell this, I'd be totally open to giving you an offer if you let me see it first. And he was like, actually, I'd like to sell it right now. And I was like, was not expecting that. I only have 50,000. You want 1 million for this thing? I got to find somebody to help me with this.
Were you able to pull it off?
Yeah. Yeah, I pulled in one of my partners from the marketing agency I used to work at, and he had been a real estate investor for 6 years, and he'd own a bunch of single families. And I was like, man, you got like 15 single family houses. We can buy a 12 family right here, and it's like way cheaper than any of the houses you're buying. Would you want to go in on this with me? I know it's a little bit more work because we got to like do common area maintenance and landscaping and stuff like that, but 65 a door compared to like 120, 130,000 a house or whatever he's used to paying. So he ended up wanting to go for it after I showed him the numbers and everything. And yeah, we just partnered on that. I did an 80-20 split because I only had 20% of the down payment because we had to put 25% down.
Hmm.
And it was 775 was our purchase price.
Nice.
Yeah, I happy to talk about the apartments. It's something I'm getting into and I'm trying to get better at, but like I've only done one deal, so I'm no like expert at this. That's where I go back and I listen to the guys from Multifamily Strategy and just like watch some of their videos and see what they do. I know they have a community too, but like I'm not down to pay $5,000 to join somebody's group to learn about real estate investing when I can watch it for free on YouTube.
Do you think that's going to be your strategy going forward, is trying to find people to partner with, or are you going to try to own stuff outright yourself? What do you think is going to be the best way for you?
So I made a pretty big mistake on this first one when I did the partnership, not with the partner. The partner's an awesome guy, but what I did make the mistake on was not leaving myself the ability to buy more equity at our purchase price in the future. So this is something that I've learned that Cody and Christian will do, where they'll have terms in their contracts like we can buy you out within this number of years at this percentage of the new appraised value of the property, or have an option to buy more equity in the deal, like if you don't have a ton of money right away. So like for example, I only own 20% of it, but I could have saved and then bought, another 20% of the deal, then I'm in at 40%. It would have been much more meaningful for me that way. And I could have definitely parted with another $50,000 to own, like, because I knew the deal was already worth 1.2 by the time I could have, paid for that equity, because I could have bought him out of his position and that. So that's a mistake I made, but like, I feel like we all make mistakes when we do stuff like that, like especially for the first time. And I'd rather just say that I like got that point on the board and was able to do that thing and then do better on the next one.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that a mistake. I would say you know how to do it a little better now.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, I just looked at it as like, man, I could have made like $400,000 on this thing. But that's like me complaining that the equity I gained was only worth like 175 instead of 350 or whatever it was. If I was able to buy the 40%. So I mean, first world problems, I guess.
Yeah, but the first
Um,
deal is the hardest one to get under your belt.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think of the house hacking, like if you guys know anybody that's just like starting out or something like that, that one was like incredibly powerful for me because I bought a triplex and I lived in one of the units, rented the other two out. The other two covered my mortgage plus like $300 a month. So like within a year of working at my job, I was able to save up. That's how I saved up the down payment for the 12plex is I just had like very little to no expenses and I just saved up $50,000 on like a $70,000 salary, which sounds insane, but I was just writing a ton of stuff off and saving all of my cash.
Yeah, that's definitely the way to go. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that house hack, and you can really kind of accelerate the velocity of your, money and savings into future deals.
Yeah, and if you house hack and then you move into another house hack, you pick up two units. Like for example, if it's a duplex that you live in and you live in one side and you rent out the other, well, when you move into a new duplex, you don't just pick up the one unit in the other side. You actually get to rent out the previous one and you pick up the other unit in the next duplex. So it's just really powerful when you can do it multiple times in a row, especially with that 30-year fixed rate debt. Like I hope to get a few more of the residential multifamilies, just because those are the debt's easier to deal with. Like on the commercial side, like I was lucky to get a 25-year mortgage, and even at that, after 5 years, I have to go sit down with the bank and figure out what our new interest rate is going to be based on the 5 year.
Yeah, I wish you could continually house hack in my market. I did it once and the numbers just got too expensive. I mean, if you want to buy a duplex, you're at 350, 400.
Wow.
And property taxes in South Carolina are really tough if you're at a non-owner occupant. And the way they
Hmm.
do is half of it. So one unit is at 4%, the other half is at 6%. So, whereas you might pay $2,000 normally, you're paying $4 or $5,000 in property taxes.
Did you say your property taxes are 4%?
Well, that's just how it's not really 4%. That's just kind of how
Okay. I was gonna say that's rough.
it's definitely pretty high. I mean, like so if you buy a $200,000 house and you're at
Mhm.
6%, so this is the non-owner occupant rate. This is the investor tax rate. You're
Mhm.
probably paying six grand for a
Yeah, right
two
around 2%. That's about where we're at.
2.5%. It's probably
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, I think we were wrapped right around like we Indiana has a law that I think it caps at two. Here it's like 2.03 or something like that.
yeah. Well, unfortunately for me in my market, between the taxes, the high interest rate and the high property, sales prices, it's really hard to find something to, not just
Yeah.
cash flow, but even break even. I mean, it's hard to, it's hard to rent out one unit if you got a 2 bed, 1 bath. It's going to rent out for 1,100, 1,200 bucks, and that won't even probably cover half your mortgage. So
Wow,
Yeah.
so your rents haven't caught up yet to where your prices are.
yeah, and they probably won't for a while. Like the Southeast is a bit different than the Midwest. Like Midwest, you have cheap sales prices and good rents. Here you have
Mhm.
good prices and low-ish rents. I mean, rents are okay, but it's not certainly going to be like the Midwest. And honestly, I don't quite know why that is, but I've seen that in most places across the Southeast.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
what you
kind of the
could,
metro regions, I think. So
Mhm.
if you're in a larger metro region, you have more government involvement. Um, you have higher taxes. You have, more regional planning. You get into smaller markets and the infrastructure is small. And you can go into Minnesota and get into some small towns and the numbers still work. But you get into the metro region and it's tough to get any numbers to work.
So that might be something to look at though, because I've been looking at some of the surrounding towns around my town's only 45,000 people, where the large metro is like, I don't know, 10 times that, which is probably still tiny compared to some of your guys's like main cities. But like looking at the towns that have got like, I don't know, 10,000 people maybe, and seeing if the numbers work there, because like with people being able to work from home, I feel like the radius from which you can go out from the main metro area has just continued to expand because people move out to some of these other areas to live cheaper. Now, if you're an agent, it kind of sucks because you'd have to drive that far. But if it's just going to be a rental, then I mean, if it works in that market, it works in that market. Like there's going to continue to be things that push up the prices if people are continuing to move outside of that circle. Just my opinion, though. I've been looking at I'm looking at a town right now that has like 900 and something people that live there.
What's the main source of jobs for smaller towns like that? Because that's always, my bigger concern, and that's why I like South Carolina and Ohio, that you've got a lot of manufacturing comparatively.
Yeah, so manufacturing, hospitals, I like it when like somebody can just be a teacher at like a local public school and be able to afford one of my apartments, like or like literally any job. I mean, besides maybe McDonald's, I don't know if that's going to work, but if you get one of those Panda Express jobs where they're paying you 22 something dollar, 22, $25 an hour to work at Panda Express, like you should be able to afford like one of the apartments I have. And that's really my objective is I want to buy cheap enough, which this isn't always available for everyone, but I want to buy cheap enough to where literally anybody could afford it. But I mean, as far as main things, you're gonna have manufacturing, hospitals, and stuff like that. That's where everybody's gonna work.
Yeah, Hunter, this is Rachit and Dylan. Good to hear from you. I just want to let you all know I'm not real estate agent. Am I in the right call?
Mhm.
But I have some questions I want to ask. Uh, if you're okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to ask how much you are seeing the gross rent in percentage wise to the property value. Like, if it is $300,000 property, what is the percentage typically you expect on annual rents? And I can tell you mine, I'm not able to cross 10%. Very hard to cross 10% for me. Is this too
So
low? Is medium high? I don't know. How do you see that?
I have never really looked at that as a metric. Like I know some people use the 1% rule to evaluate properties. I just think that doesn't really factor in a lot of things that are super important that you should know numbers wise. And I think it makes more sense to like just take the 5 minutes to underwrite a property that looks
Hmm.
interesting to you, instead of like looking at, well, am I getting 1% of the property value every month? Um, I've been able to hit more than I would say more than that on some of my properties. Like if are you talking about gross rents, for example? Because I have one property that I bought for 250 that I'm getting uh like 16% per
Wow.
year. Yeah, it was an off-market pocket listing. I'll tell you, like that's going to be your best way of finding deals. If it hits the MLS or if it hits Crexy, um, I know a lot of these guys and this group, like as far as like the ORAC community, will say that you can look on the MLS, which is true. You can find base hits on the MLS, and you can find things that you can rehab and change the structure of the property to increase the cash flow. But if you really want to find home runs, like you have to network with people and you have to find stuff off the MLS, in my opinion.
Yeah, interestingly, I've done investments very differently till date,
Hmm.
which might look a little unconventional. I have bought all
Hmm.
new constructions.
Oh, nice. So you
So,
have no
okay,
problems for a long time.
yeah, long time. So my thought process was, if I buy a new construction townhome, if I get 10%, of course that is not a right metric. I agree with you, but at least
Hmm.
with that formula, I know how much at 6 to 7% I will make at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I get good tenants. Uh, I don't worry about maintenance. Uh, I'm based out of Pittsburgh, by the way.
Yeah.
And but again, I'm just trying to understand that approach. Definitely is hassle free for me.
Uh-huh.
Like I bought a 360K property. It goes $3,000 per month rent.
Yeah.
Uh, in one or two properties, I got like even I would say football players are living in that, which who are temporary for a year with the football team. They are just they rent
That's
it.
pretty sweet.
Interesting. But again, it's not as profitable. That's what I'm trying to understand with you. All of your experience, Craig is here, Hunter, all of you. Is this what you are seeing more than 10% gross rent? Am I investing in the wrong side by putting on the new construction homes and maybe getting like, I will say closely 9 to 10% rent annually of the property value, gross rent?
I'm not following your math. Give me an example of how you're calculating that.
How I'm calculating that, suppose a property is $300,000, which I purchased. My annual rent gross without expenses is 30,000 annually. So it's
Okay.
10% of the property value.
Yeah, I don't use that formula. So what I'll do to kind of narrow it down, so if I'm looking at a lot of properties and I want to know if it's worth spending my time to look at it, I'll use it's a gross rent multiplier and it's a monthly gross rent multiplier. So if you take that same property at 300,000, I'll take 300,000 and divide it by 120. That's 2,500 a month. And then I'll say, can I get right around 2,500 a month for that one? Yes. If yes, then I'm going to run the full numbers like Dylan talks about. Take the 5-10 minutes and put the actual numbers in there to make sure there's nothing crazy going on expenses.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. So what did you do? Why 120? Sorry, if you can
uh,
explain me again on
so
three.
so let me back up a little bit. The 1% rule was a number thrown out on YouTube way back when, we were in the middle of the foreclosure crisis. And nobody understands where that 1% came from. It's just like out of thin air. 1%, it's magic. What they did is excuse my language, they bastardized the gross rent multiplier. So the
Okay.
gross rent multiplier is an old-fashioned formula that all the old investors used to use back in the day. And it was a way to kind of ballpark if something's going to cash flow or not. And it's not a way to analyze the property, but it's a way to weed through the junk and figure out if something's worth spending your time to look at.
Mm-hmm.
So when that market there was a lot of deals out there, it became 100. So now let's go back and we'll say we're going to use the gross monthly rental multiplier and we'll take 300,000 times, or yeah, divided by 100. I did my math wrong. So 300,000 divided by 100.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you're at. You're at that. I doubled that up, but you're at your 3,000 a month. Okay, so now you can as the market changes, you can't find those 1% deals. So you're going to use a gross rent multiplier, and let's say Dylan, I'm going to make fun of you, right? Because you're in this crazy market that I just dream of getting those kind of buys. So we'll take that 300,000 in your market. We'll get you what, 9,000 apartment units,
Yeah, something like that.
give or take. And
Mm-hmm.
then maybe we'll divide that by 110, right? So that you'd get about 2,700 a month would be the rent on that one, right? So then 300,000 divided by my formula is 120, and that's 2,500.
Okay. And
Um,
Craig, just a follow-on question on that. If I will give you a real example, I purchased one townhome in 2018 at 180,000. Uh, that
so
rents right now at,
180,000 for a townhome.
yeah, it was in 2018. Yeah,
Okay.
and
Yep.
it rents now at $2,000 per month. But the property value in Zillow shows it's close to 280 now as of today. So what should be my formula for calculating it? Should we keep checking on a 180 what I invested to calculate whether I'm getting the right rent, or it should be based on 280 now, the Zillow value?
Oh, the rent is not a formula we use, if I'm understanding your question right. Rent is driven by market. What is
Hmm.
available for them to rent? You can't arbitrarily pick a number on to charge rent, right?
Okay.
Just because if your
I
expenses go up doesn't mean your rent goes up.
I think he was, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one. I thought you were asking a question of like return on what you bought it for versus return on what it's worth now. And I
Correct.
feel like that's a debate that like a lot of us have, maximizing return on equity, which is like what it's worth now versus, what you bought it for. I don't really subscribe to the maximizing return on equity. Uh, ideology because the problem with it is that it constantly forces people to leverage up as much as possible because you're trying to maximize your ROE. And I would prefer that you have like if you're getting $2,000 a month, you bought it for 180,000. Did you put 25% down or did you buy this in cash? Like how did you do this deal?
Yeah. Yeah, I initially did with 25% down, but later on I paid off. Like it's just fully paid off right now.
Uh, you might think of like when rates go down, or I mean maybe run the numbers on see what it's like to pull some money out of this that you could use in a different deal. But like I wouldn't go all the way back down to the 25% because I mean from what you're saying, if it's worth 280, and I found Zillow is low a lot of the time compared to like when I'm
Hmm.
running a BPO. Um, I would just see what money you can pull out and you're still happy with the cash flow and the return that you get on the money that's still left in the deal. Because I mean, if it's paid off, you could probably take out like even if you just wanted to be 50% levered, 140 grand, and then go buy use that as a down payment on a few more properties if you wanted to. I'm not a financial advisor, so
No, I know that.
don't
I'm thinking already, but Dylan, it's
yeah,
trust me. This is exactly what I'm thinking now. But
yeah.
because of these numbers and ratios, sometimes I feel are they useful or they're not useful? If it is money is flowing, it's coming to my bank account. I know that. At least I know that very clearly.
I
Uh,
mean, if I'm honest, I would be super happy right now if my threeplex and my 12plex were paid off and I didn't
mhm.
have to pay the banks like $5,000 or $6,000 a month because that would just be split between me and my partner. That would be amazing. And I think it's still like an 8 or 9% cash on cash. And I'd be cool with that to just relax a little bit and keep building the portfolio. So like if you're getting 2 grand a month and like you have, I don't know, like do you have many expenses on this property?
Yeah, I do have. I think I make around 70% of the gross, like $1,400 comes to my
Yeah.
pocket every month.
I,
Yeah.
I would be happy with that, but if you're wanting to maximize it more, you can look at pulling out some equity. I just don't like where rates are right now. I mean, so if this is something you want to do now, run the numbers. Do you know the CDS rental calculator? That's what I use to like figure out like, okay, if I were to refinance, this is what it would be like, and if I here, I'm putting it in the chat.
I,
I think you cut out.
Yeah, I don't hear them.
I don't hear him either. Also, you guys can tell me if I'm talking too much.
No,
I
this is good stuff. So the CDS rental calculator, is that just certificate of deposit? Is that what you're looking at?
No, so it's a YouTuber's calculator. His name is Chandler David Smith. He's a real estate investor. He's been posting stuff for like it's got to be 8 or 9 years now. And he created a free rental calculator that you can use to figure out the numbers on your property. So like if you you can just here, I'll get the website for you so you can see it. Because he has an Excel one too that I actually really like for the computer.
Yeah.
But just makes running your numbers easy. Oh, looks like you're
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Are you able to hear me? I think I lost connection for a minute. Yep. So I've not used that calculator. I was trying to say that, Dylan. I've never used it.
Check it out. I think it'll
Yeah.
make your decision way easier because you can run like 3 or 4 different scenarios to see what makes sense for you.
Hmm. Okay.
Also, the numbers wise, cash flow isn't always how you could or should maybe evaluate your potential purchases or the properties you have. I mean, Craig, I know you might use depreciation and cost seg stuff, but that's like for me, one of the biggest things is the depreciation schedule and what that looks like for me if I'm going to buy a property. Obviously, it's got a cash flow as well, but if I can get a lot of depreciation comparatively to what I'm actually investing to take over the property. That's also another avenue to consider when you're, factoring in some of your numbers on top of, the value of the property going up over time and your debt pay down schedule. So all different things you have to factor into, besides just the pure cash flow side.
Greg, I need to learn more about that cost seg stuff because I'm trying to start paying no taxes.
I'll send you, Hunter's worked with him too, John Murphy. So I'll
Mhm.
give John Murphy a call and you can talk to him specific about running the cost seg. And basically, you get the depreciation over the 27 and a half years. Your commercial stuff, you'll get a longer, amortization period, but he
Mhm.
can move some of that stuff forward so you get more depreciation up front.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, if probably not this year. I don't think I'll have an awesome, like a slam dunk year as an agent this year. I don't think anybody does in their first year unless they're just stellar. I'd love to learn how to do that.
Hmm.
But if I have a good year like next year or the year after, like it'd be really nice to cost seg my 12plex. And since I'm a real estate professional, they just, those two wash together, and I could just
It goes
erase all
off
the
your straight
taxes.
income. Yep. It's
Yeah.
it's not off of passive income. That's a benefit of having your license. So like your driveway, your appliances, you're gonna depreciate over 5 years instead of the 27 and a half years
Mm,
because it's not gonna last 27 and a half years.
no.
So
No, especially how they make them now.
yeah,
I never
you're
thought I
lucky to
would
get
start to.
two.
I never thought I would be one of those guys, but I bought a Whirlpool dishwasher like last year that I put in a unit, and I had to replace it like a year and like 2 months after I bought it, so it was right out of that warranty window.
Yep. Yeah, I'm getting about 2 years, and I won't buy anything made overseas right now. It's all got to be local so I can get parts. And I'm
Mm,
learning how to repair the stuff myself and just,
that's smart.
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, Another question I have pasted in the chat window, which is a puzzle, correct? When the banks and the market is giving money at more than 7%,
Hmm.
and the real estate is making close to 8 to 10%. I'm just using, then it's typically not very profitable, very close to 7 to 8% if you're making, then how you're cracking that code to use money from bank or market and still be profitable.
Yeah, so you just have to and you can say if any of the stuff I say is like I need to explain any of the terms. But when you have an interest rate like this, you need to make sure your cap rate is higher than the interest rate. And usually I'd say you need to be about like 2 points or more above. So like if your interest rate's a 7% interest rate, I really want to be at like a 9 or a 10 cap because if you're leveraging it, like the last thing you want to have happen is you're borrowing the money at 7%, you've got a 5 or 6% cap rate, and then you're taking on negative leverage because you're putting a smaller down payment down. So like the money that you borrow actually like impacts your return in a negative way, as opposed to how it's supposed to work, like when we invest in real estate. Whereas if you have like for example, a 7% interest rate and a 10% cap rate, like if that's levered 4 times, like you're theoretically, quote unquote, you should be getting like a 12% cash on cash return. Before expenses, that's like really minimizing how to do the math.
Mm-hmm.
But
And yeah.
But yeah, you do not want to take on negative leverage. If you are, figure out a way to make it positive as fast as you can. Like I bought my property at like a 6.5 cap, but I knew it was closer to a 10 cap based on the rents in the area. So I was cool with losing like I think we were losing like $800 a month for like not even the first month, because we got to fill a bunch of them right away. So we just blew straight through that six all the way to like a 10 cap.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if anybody's from the Pittsburgh market, I've not seen much deals earning that much.
I think you should connect with Jack from
Mhm.
Jack's Business Talk and Harrison. I if you message me in school, I can put you in contact with them, but they both invest in Pittsburgh, and so does Mark, the financial firefighter, as well. They could probably help you answer some questions about that market because I know they're
Okay,
getting stuff too.
perfect. Do you want me to ping my contact details, email, phone number? How you want?
You could just text me in school, or you could throw your phone number in here, and I can text you
Yeah,
there
I
too.
happy to do that. Both things. Yeah.
Yeah, because then you can ask me questions whenever. I'm also available in school too.
Thank you. Yeah.
Welcome, welcome.
Another thing, Richie, that you can consider is, trying to get some creative financing on deals. I mean, I know a couple people that do a lot of stuff in the Pennsylvania markets, wholesaler wise, but they're always finding creative finance deals. Some like 0% interest, seller financing. So that's a whole nother route, an avenue to go.
Perfect. No, yeah, I would love to learn about that because I told that mostly I have purchased properties, new construction recently, all the three additional. Those are very different, but I'm struggling to scale how to scale from here. So I think I might have to do something different than what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, new construction's nice from like a maintenance standpoint right out of the gate, but you're usually paying a premium to get new construction. So new construction typically runs 15 to 25% higher than existing homes. So the approach I take is I build in a lot of equity and I buy the biggest piece of junk I can find and
Hmm.
add value to it. And then I stick primarily to the single family homes because that's kind of my I'm a realtor, so I understand the market, and I buy stuff that I know will sell. So I'm not going strictly for cash flow like Hunter had talked about. I do like the depreciation for tax purposes, and I want something I can unload quickly and sell because I'm going to gain a lot of appreciation and a lot of equity buildup is the other way I'm earning. So it's not 100% cash flow for me.
Okay. Maybe in the next call, I know we are on time. I definitely would crave from you difference between single family investment versus townhome, what you see in the market. Uh, in a longer on a longer run, what do you see? It's profitable to be on single family or townhome? Maybe in the next call.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can if no one's got any other questions, I mean, just a real quick answer to townhome versus single family. Single family appreciates better than townhomes. A lot of what happens with the townhomes is the association dues take up a lot of that appreciation for from a monthly standpoint, and it's just it just doesn't do as well over time. And then the cash flow doesn't look as good. But I look at townhomes as a little different because it gets me into the premier neighborhoods I want to be in at a very low cost. So I can get a nice two bedroom, two bath unit
Hmm.
in a great school district, and I've got a line of people. So I very rarely, I don't even know if I've ever had a vacancy on these. Um, so there's always people waiting to get in. So it stays rented all the time. So I don't have vacancy. I do pay a lot in the dues, but they're setting aside capital expenditure money. They're taking care of the outside maintenance and everything else. So a lot of that takes stuff off of my plate. And the vacancy is where you lose. So I don't have vacancies on the townhomes, the single families, I'll get more vacancy on. But appreciation, I do way better on the single families.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. I think that's
yeah, Greg, question for you, if you don't mind. I know
Sure.
you said you live in California. So where do you invest, Greg? Sorry, I might have missed it. Uh,
Is that question for me,
yeah, yeah.
Ravi?
Yeah.
I'm actually in Minnesota, so I don't invest in California. I commented on, I don't know how people invest in California with the
Oh, okay,
prices.
okay, okay.
Yeah. Where do you invest?
I invested in Texas, I live in California. I invested in Texas. I bought the property. It's a new property. I bought it 2 years back. So it's cash flowing, but it's kind of, I would say, like it's break even right now. So
Hmm.
I'm thinking of managing the property myself. Most of the money goes to property manager,
Yeah.
most of the profits. So I'm thinking about yeah, managing myself. Probably I will cash flow fairly.
What do they charge you for management there?
It's a duplex. I have a two doors, $100 per door.
Okay.
Even it is vacant, they charge $100.
Yeah.
And if new for new tenants, 50% of the in first rental,
How much percent?
50%.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Yeah, and if the same tenant renews, it's 25%. Uh,
35
25%.
or 25?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Uh,
Wow.
How about maintenance? Do they gouge you on maintenance?
yeah, that's the thing, right? Sometimes, some of, uh, they just every time they come up with some maintenance fees. Uh, so for yeah, and advertisement fee, like apart from when they get the new tenant, they take 50%. In addition, they say like advertisement fee and then move-in fee, something like that. I would say like comes to 1 month, right? They're taking like all the 1 month rent. Even
Okay,
they
they bury a lot of fees in there. Okay.
exactly,
Mhm.
yeah, that's
Yeah, I also have. I actually manage my properties through Berkshire. I've been happy with them, with how they are doing, but the fees are definitely. I agree with Ravi. In my case, it's not like that. They charge 1 month fee for the new tenant. They don't charge me for if the tenant extends the lease for 2 year or 3 year later on. Um, if the home is vacant, they don't charge me monthly payment fees because I'm not getting any money. They don't take any money.
yeah.
But I'm still negotiating. They are charging me 8% per month on property management of the rent. But they're pretty professional. I feel that if the tenant broke the lease 2 months back, midway, they are pulling rent from him till the time new tenant is coming. Even the ex-tenant was saying that he will not pay. Then they were taking care of like, okay, then you're getting notice in 24 hours from magistrate. So I don't have to deal with that. They
Mhm.
are doing for it, but definitely it's costing me. But
Yeah.
I'm on my like I don't have to worry about it. Completely passive for me. I just focus on growth. They maintain for me. My goal is how to expand, and I'm on full-time job as well. That's another thing right now. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, so Ravi, my question would be, can you provide them the subs to do the work so you might be able to control those costs a little bit better?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, right? Like some of the things like, I can have them do it, finding the new tenants.
Yeah, so
But
if you can local or find a local handyman there, and then
y-
just when there's an issue, just have those guys reach out to the handyman. Can
yeah,
that save you any money?
yeah, that's what I'm exploring. I'm making contact with some handyman. Uh,
Uh,
in a month or two, I should be able to make a decision. At the same time, like, I want to save money, but at the same time, I don't want to have a lot of headache. So
Yep.
I'm weighing both in. Um,
Ravi, I did one more thing on my old property, which I was saying, which I purchased. In that, I purchased home warranty for the property management company, and they lock the fees per call max up to $80, $70, and after that, it's their cost, everything.
oh,
Uh,
okay.
Explore that if they are making not making too many calls. Like I give you an example, my dishwasher broken,
Hmm.
so they were supposed to cover it. So they offered me first refurbished. They will give you same brand.
Uh-huh.
Well, if they couldn't find it, they gave me like $600. I think I purchased from the market in 400, 450.
Okay.
I kept 150 in my pocket. Just explore that. There are multiple home warranties. Some are
Yeah.
fixed
Thanks.
on month per call. Some are that you can use your own vendor
Okay.
and they will deduct $70 out of it. There are
Yeah.
multiple types of warranties.
Yeah. This is the new property, so that's why I can wait for a few more years, I think. But still, let me check that out. Yeah. Thanks.
Mhm.
So I manage properties for clients, and I charge them $100 a month.
Mhm.
75% of the first month's rent to place the tenant. I'll do the background check, do the lease, everything like that. And then for lease renewals, I don't charge them anything. I just redraft the lease and keep them in there. And
Oh,
then work orders, I don't do any markup on any of the vendors that I use. And sometimes I'll even take care of repairs myself because I'm out. Just easier for me just to take care of it and don't bill them for it. I want them profitable, so they'll buy others. So
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think you'll find that deal too much out there, though.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of PMs try to bake in a lot of fees. Like that was my thing because I always look at like any of the businesses that are tied to like other people's assets. I try to look at the old like Buffett model for like how he ran his original hedge fund, which was, you know, there's a high like he has a high water mark of like 6%. And this is more of how I'm looking at running the fund, but also like how I wanted to structure the PM costs. So like I look at it as like, and I know you have the $100 fee per month per unit, whether it's leased or not. Or was that if it's leased or if it's not leased?
I don't charge them if it's not leased, but again,
Okay,
I don't run vacancies. So, but they're
gotcha.
following my business plan, so I'm not dealing in properties that I'm not familiar with, kind of thing. So,
Gotcha. Yeah, because I was looking at just like when I was gonna run mine, just like 8% of whatever it was, and then like half of the first month, and then just everything else we just deal with it because I wanted to make sure that there was a an incentive for us to have it leased out. Like the last thing you want is a property manager incentivized to continue to turn units because that's what they're going to do every single year. Like if they know that they can get a whole month of rent out of you or like a half a month of rent, like they're going to continue to turn units. I know it is more work, but I think if we can find a way to like minimize the incentive of continually turning units, then then the investor property manager relationship is a lot more aligned as far as goals and everything.
do you have ideas on that? So the reason I ask is I've got a couple, and they've got a couple units, and they
Mhm.
don't want to do turnover, or I'm sorry, they don't want to raise rent because they don't want to pay the fee to place a tenant again. And I don't blame them,
Mhm.
but they're getting to the point where their rent is getting too far under market,
Yeah.
because they're too afraid to push that boundary. So I was kind of thinking to myself along your lines is how do I structure that so that risk they don't lose, right?
Mhm.
Because they're losing by not keeping the rent up because they're afraid of paying that fee. So
Well, I mean, one thing they could try doing first is, and this is what I did to raise a lot of the rents on my 12-plex, was I printed off like what fair market rents are in the area. I printed off a bunch of different Zillow listings for rentals in the area, and I just had a conversation with each of the tenants to figure out what they could pay based on like where the market is and where they're at. And I found that tenants usually try to split the difference. So like if I was asking for I said, hey, market's around 1200, you're at like 7. Like, what could we do that's in between here? I'm not expecting you to go to 12. You probably wouldn't be expecting to go to 12 either because this apartment hasn't been updated. But like, and then leave it in their court, let them decide the number because usually they'll come up quite a bit. Like I had people come up over $200 on their rents.
that's kind of the Dion strategy, right?
That's where I got it from.
Yeah.
But as far as the turnovers, I don't know if they're like because you kind of have to charge a fee unless you want to figure out a way to like turn units and like charge people a more minimal fee for leasing it to a new tenant. I think it's just hard because every PM has some sort of fee, whether it's a full month, 75% in your case, or half a month. Like, yeah, I mean, it's more work, so they do charge for it. But if we just didn't have that all together, I think it's more incentives aligned. But I know that is a huge um, profit center for property managers is leasing units, and they have to be able to pay their leasing agents too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of time that goes into it, photo prep, and then the showings. The showings can be brutal too in a down market.
Yeah.
You get there, people don't show up. My townhomes, I'll go publish it, and I'll have 30 people lined up, right? And then it's like it's almost a feeding frenzy. And then I
Yeah.
got to be careful of my license, so I can't start having everyone apply at the same time. It's first come, first serve, first qualified. I'm not going to have everyone spend $60 for a background check with no chance on getting it.
Mhm.
Um, you know, but the single families, that doesn't work that way. It's you'll show up there and maybe someone doesn't show up, or you show at 20 different trips. And if you're spread out all over town, I mean, that's a full-time job.
Have you tried, because this is what my partner does when he's leasing his single families. He'll set all of the appointments like 15 minutes apart. So
Mhm.
he might have, oh, so you do that too. Okay. I was gonna
Well,
say that's what
that's assuming you have more than one person inquiring. I won't even
Oh,
set them
oh,
15 minutes apart. I'll just say, meet me at 2 o'clock,
uh-huh.
and I'll have 30 people show up at 2 o'clock, right?
Wow.
But if only one inquires at a
Uh-huh.
time, and that's the nice thing about apartments because you're hitting that market sweet spot where most people can afford, and you have high turnover because it's younger people.
Hmm.
So you can do that strategy, but you start charging, a house in a premier area and you start charging 5,000 a month, there's not a lot of people that can afford that. And, you know,
Hmm.
it's one-on-one showings and it just takes more time.
You should really look,
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Craig, if you haven't already. That's what I use. It's a really good product. It's basically like a monthly subscription, but it allows you to basically not be present and do like a virtual showing with them. So you put a lockbox on the door. They fill out basically a pre-screening questionnaire beforehand. They have to put in their ID so you know who's going through the property. But then they show up at the door. They get a code when they're standing in front of the door to open up the lockbox, and it's a unique code per person, and it only lasts like 15 minutes. Uh,
What's the name of it?
Tenant Turner, I think that's the name of it.
Hmm.
I gotta look back up.
TenantTurner.com, Tenant Turner leasing scheduling software.
Yeah, Tenant Turner. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look into that.
It takes
Now, I'm an old man because my physical reaction is like more tech, more passwords. I still drive to the bank and deposit checks in person.
I like to deposit the cash in person.
Yeah. So some of the tech I'm slow to adapt, others I'm quick to adapt, but
So we picked up the software maybe, gosh, probably about a year ago. Only because we started having like this single family 45 minutes away, another one, 30 minutes the other direction, a duplex apartment over here. And so it's like, it's not like we have one 20 unit building where everything's right there. And so it just became a little bit easier to manage that way. I'm not having to go drive for, three different showings. It's like, I might go once a week, twice a week to check in, make sure somebody didn't move in unexpectedly. But I mean, you can see when somebody opens and closes a lockbox. I mean, you get a copy of their ID. If the ID doesn't match or look sketchy, it just rejects them. It asks questions about income and credit score. So if someone's at a 400 credit score and you have a 600 minimum, it'll say, hey, you don't meet the requirements. And or that's probably not the exact language. I'm sure there's some you know
right.
lawyer language in there to protect everybody. But anyway, good tool if you're needing some help with showings.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll look into that.
I uh I wonder what the difference is between like the sh like how many times you have one of those like tenant turner showings versus how many times you show a property to people like in person, because I know something that I'm usually doing when I'm there in person is I'm like trying to have fun with the people and sell them on the apartment or house or whatever it is, like just constantly selling the whole time to, especially if I like them and I like their application, like I think they're a good applicant. Like I'm
More
trying
importantly,
to
you're
get,
qualifying them and you're screening them.
yeah, like if somebody walks in and they're, like jittering a little bit and they look sketchy, like I get to see them in person and know that,
Mhm.
hey, I'm gonna find, so I gotta be careful because this is recorded, but I gotta find a reason to not qualify this person for this apartment because I know that there is potentially a problem.
Yeah, so for
Um,
the whole tenant turner process really is almost just like a pre-screening to reduce the amount of time I'm going to show
gotcha.
apartments to people who aren't really interested. Like, um, if I have a 3-2 single family house, I'll maybe get 50 different people that are interested. Out of that, maybe 10 to 15 go look at it, and I probably got two or three maybe that are interested, maybe one, I don't know. But then I'll take those two or three people and I'll go have them meet individually before they submit an application at the house, so that way I'm, again, before they submit the application, but I'm not showing the property 15 times, and then I'm able to go have conversations, figure out, okay, what's their move-in date, are they comfortable with the rent amount, security deposit, all the basic stuff that you guys are doing while you're showing. But it's really just
Mhm.
reducing the amount of hours, travel time both ways, plus time sitting there. I mean, the amount of people that I've had cancel on me, it's like
Yeah.
I show up, and even if I have four people scheduled all in a 20-minute time window of each other, all four people just flake last minute. It's like, well,
Had that happen.
Drives me crazy. Yeah.
and
Um,
it's a huge waste of time.
I have a question for you guys from the agent perspective. Also, on the next call, I totally don't I don't have to talk the majority of the time. Kind of felt bad. I felt like some of those other people may have wanted to ask questions that were in the or like talk that were in the chat. Like I saw Maria in there for like the whole hour, and it didn't seem like she got to ask much. So I'll slow down on talking next time. Um, I just got my license and I'm trying to figure out how to find clients. And the only thing that I could really think of is one, I've been posting stuff on social media, like on Facebook, about one, getting my license, but then also being an investor and so on, but then also going to the local RIA. But I really need to find a way to start to build my buyer pool so I can start to like, or get listings in general. I prefer listings, but buyers work too right now because I just don't have any leads.
What business are you building? You talked you're gonna do property management, you're gonna do investment, and then you're gonna go to the RIA and look for other investors. What are you looking
Yeah.
for listings?
Yeah, so like brokering like selling properties for people essentially or like helping people buy properties because at the moment like real estate is my full-time thing and the investment side just isn't big enough yet to only focus on that. So I still need to help people find like whether it's a single family house or they're looking for a duplex or something like that.
So a young couple looking to buy their first home.
Yep.
Okay. So the business isn't really focus in on your sphere, the people you know, the people closest to you, and just let them know you're in the business. Keep in touch with them, update them. You can put them on some sort of marketing so you're constantly reminding them you're in the business.
Hmm.
And sometimes agents don't like to do this because it's kind of embarrassing, right? You're
Hmm.
hitting them up, you're sending them the calendar, the stupid refrigerator magnets and stuff like that. But that stuff works, right? Y- uh, you have to stay in touch with your sphere because most of your business is going to come out of the people that know you, like you, and trust you. That's how you build the traditional real estate model. What I would recommend doing is picking up the Keller Williams book. Gary Keller wrote The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Follow that to the T, and you'll be a millionaire real estate agent.
Hmm.
It's easier said than done, right? There's a lot of work to it. He's got specifics on how to do so many touches, out of your sphere. And then once you build that sphere, and then you can start growing like a farm area, a region, just kind of a neighborhood, and you become the expert in that area. And you can use online tactics as well to become the expert in that area so people can trust you, so websites, that kind of stuff, Facebook. And then there's so many touches. There's a formula on how many touches you have to make to each contact to get a transaction. So then you say, okay, I want to make 200,000 a year, and then you'll
Mhm.
back out how many contacts you need in that system because every 300 is going to convert to a lead and then, your conversion from there. So he's got specific formulas that you follow. So if I were
Gotcha.
starting over, I'd just pick up that book and just follow that as close as I could.
Gotcha. I will pick that up. That would be really helpful. Yeah, because I've been trying to figure it out from like I'm posting my renovations and my like the investment properties and stuff like that on social media. Also that I'm an
Mhm.
agent and stuff too. So like whether just trying to like get stuff out there so people can see me doing the things that like they see on HGTV or like, stuff like that, that they're like, oh my gosh, this guy's actually doing it. I got to talk to him about this. I want to buy
Yep.
one.
Yeah, there's a lot of self-promotion, and a lot of people fail in real estate because they're kind of shy about it.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, their brother or sister go and buy a house. Oh, I forgot you sold real estate.
Hmm.
It's like,
Come on, guys.
yeah, but that happens, right? And it's just because they don't want to be too aggressive, but you have to be kind of a little bit of a showboat, and that's why, agents seem kind of arrogant because they're always reminding people they're in the business.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've been trying to like queue up some content so I can continue to post something like on at least a weekly basis. I don't even know if that's often enough. Um, and it's not all like, hey, I'm an agent, blah blah blah. It's
Mhm.
like something data related or like a project that I'm working on or something like that.
Yeah, there's sources you can go to, just any content, you see an article about real estate, mortgage rates, just comment on it and post it, and you're engaging in that real estate topic. And then
Yeah,
when someone's, looking to buy or sell, who do I know that's an agent? Oh yeah, you know.
mm, that makes sense.
Yep.
No, that's helpful. How long did it take you both to get like pretty steadily focused? Like the guys in my office are saying that you should probably aim for like not in your first year, but they're like you should aim to do about one transaction a month or more is what their goals are. And I know some of the guys like they'll do one of my friends is insane. He does like one a week. It almost seems like.
Mhm. Um, yeah, the one a month is a good production. What I'm noticing in real estate is
Mhm,
I'm going to compare it to farming, right? Maybe in your area, you got farmers there and you used to have the family farm and they'd have 30 head of cows or, dairy cows and, maybe get a couple hundred pigs and then whatever farming 200 acres or 180 acres. Um, they can no longer survive in the business, right? So you
mhm,
have these larger farms that come up and they may have 10,000 pigs now and they may have, 1,000 dairy cows and thousands of acres, right? So they had to scale up and they're becoming large operations so that the typical family farm is gone for the most part. I'm starting to see signs that's happening in the real estate industry. Agents are putting together teams. They're getting very efficient and dialed in on how they market, and they're taking larger and larger percentage of the market share. So the typical agent that I was trained on how to be, the local guy, and I've been at it for over 30 years. That's kind of slowly dying off, right? It's not the family agent anymore. It's kind of starting to become the agents are kind of a big business group of agents within the broker. So there are many brokers within inside the broker. It's very early stages on that. So it depends on how long of a career you want. If
mhm.
that's the way you want to go, I would start looking at how these teams are building and start getting aggressive and say that's the way you got to build it. If you're like me and you just, you got some rental income and you're gonna serve your friends and family and past clients, and it's not about the money at that point. So it depends where you want to go with it. But that's kind of see how I see the industry changing. And then the commission structures being attacked, the traditional business models being attacked. You have technology that they keep trying to break the business model. They haven't been able to do it yet, but at some point they're going to keep chipping away on the sides, and it's you're going to have to get better and better and more efficient to make a good living at this.
Yeah, I think the real estate agent piece it's gonna be a thing for me. Like I'm always like I said, I'm always gonna have the license, but it's going to phase out, and I'll just end up helping friends and family as I grow the investment side of the business. It
Hmm.
sounds like that's something very similar to what you did.
Yeah.
So like you can help people, but like I'm not everybody's agent, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're probably in a market where the traditional model is going to work for a long time. You
Mhm.
start getting into, the larger metro areas, you start getting higher and higher competition, and you start running into these machines. I mean, they're literally building machines that lead
Mhm.
generate, and they got buyers agents. They just pay to go show, and it's impressive.
Yeah.
I don't want to work
Yeah.
that hard.
No, I don't either. Well, that's why I started getting the rentals because I was like, man, people talk about this work in 40 years thing. I'm trying to figure out how I can be done in five.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know in one rental at a time they talk about like 10 years, but on the
Mhm.
apartment side, I think it really only takes like a few solid deals to not really have to do anything else.
Yeah, if you scale it right, and you're ahead of me as far as the multifamily goes.
Mhm.
I've teed up a few deals. I've sold deals. I've never pulled the trigger on large multifamily myself. Um, so
I'd
so
say
yeah,
10 or 12 is not that hard. Like, if is it a price thing in the area? Because that's what it sounds like based on like what you're seeing price wise. It's just like it doesn't even make sense.
yeah, yep. It's that, and my understanding, my wheelhouse is I was a home builder. I've been a realtor. That's just kind of where my skill set is. So
Mhm.
that's where I've just focused. Now I do see the ability to scale up quicker in apartments, multifamily. So I would like to approach that, but haven't really been able to find anything to work. I had one deal. It was in a small town. You had brought up doing a smaller community.
Yeah.
Population was under 15,000. And it was a brand new building. I forget how many units. It was like 40 units, new construction. Had it teed up on a USDA loan. So it was, I think we were going in at 10% down.
Hmm.
And then the city kicked in the land. So that covered the other equity spread. And this was a super low rate at the time. I think it was like 3.5 or 4%.
Yeah.
And it was fully assumable fixed rate.
Wow.
USDA loan, because it was a rural development loan.
Yeah.
And I couldn't verify the rents, and there wasn't enough economic data for that metro area to bring in the syndication, the partners, and I only needed to raise $1 million.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm
No,
not going to stick my neck out on a deal like this and have it go pear-shaped because I can't quantify that market because it's too small.
yeah. Um, I think the biggest thing that I've learned, at least trying to find apartments, is that formula that I was talking about like meeting the owners and learning how they built their business and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
then a lot of them, like if you like I meet some of these guys and they're like 60, some of them are 70, some of them are like 55. Like the people in that range, like some of them are just like wanting to get out of it because like the guy that I met, he had like that apartment building, he had a business where he was doing like he had a bread delivery route for like prisons and schools and stuff like that, which I didn't know that they own their own routes, like they can sell those routes to other people. So I was like, man, you could sell that too after you sell this building, and then you're just chilling. And he was like, well, I gotta have something to do because he's used to having that, this, and then his wife had a cleaning business, and he said, I'm her only employee. So, you know, uh,
But
but
just think of what you're learning by meeting those guys, right? On how
yeah,
hard they worked, and they're used to the grind. They don't know any different.
Yeah, they get like, and that's something that I've been kind of bored with, since I just switched over to being an agent. There's not much like volume right now, or like things that I'm doing. Like I'm finding the like I just picked up the managing these 5 renovations because I'm like, "Oh, I'm not doing anything right now. My friend, I just bill him
Careful,
by the hour. Yeah,
because pretty soon that's all you're going to be doing because it's something to keep you occupied. But what you should be doing is going out and meeting people.
yeah. No, I need to. I need to. I told him I just spend like the next few months like helping him get these 5 houses online. And then after that, like I intend full well on finding people to do like because I'm not doing the renovations myself. I'm just lining up the contractors and having them do the work.
Yeah.
But I intend on finding clients in the meantime.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, and I do the work myself. I don't even hire that out because just
Mhm.
it's too much brain damage because I can't find anyone decent.
Yeah,
But it sucks up your time, and then your residential sales go down. So
yeah.
you got to figure out where you want to spend the time, risk reward, and go from there. Um, and that's something I'm still trying to learn. I have control issues, so I do everything myself. So that's why I'll never end up with a huge business because I can't let go of control.
Honestly, if I've been telling a few people this, like if I could just pick up like another 20 units or something like that and then just pay off the portfolio, I think I would be good. Like I don't need something super huge. Like I do have the aspirations for the fund, but I'm saying like as a base, like I could just not do anything again. I just know that's not my personality.
Mhm.
But I
But it
mean,
takes a lot of stress off if you don't need that paycheck. Now you can do something
yeah.
fun, well,
Yeah.
productive, and you don't have that stress of making that next payment.
hmm Well, especially if they were paid off. I mean, I imagine like because me and my partner split that 12-plex. Oh, here, one sec. Somebody was calling me. Um, Me and my partner split that 12-plex 80/20, and then I have my 3-plex, and like 6 paid off units would make me like 45 grand a year. And I'm like, man, I mean, it's not like anything crazy, but that's more than most people make in my market. So.
Yeah, that's more than a lot of people are retiring on after 40 years of work.
Yeah, and I'm thinking if I close enough deals this year on the residential side, I could probably pay off at least one of those properties. And I'm like, man, that would be insane.
And then you start thinking about return on equity and starts doing your
Yeah,
head in, and then you take a big risk. And
that's what I was trying to warn that one guy. I can't remember his name because I just talked to him for like a few minutes, but the guy that was in the chat that was like, well, I mean, you
Ratchet or
got
Ravi? I think it was Ratchet that
yeah.
was talking about return on equity.
Yeah, and I was like, you got to be really, really careful with that because these guys that look at maximizing ROE, like they continue to lever and lever and lever, and like you're going to blow yourself up. And I would rather have a smaller paid off portfolio than like $50 million in real estate with 10 million down.
Because if you hit a rough patch in the economy, it can sink you.
Yeah, yeah, and if that's recourse debt too, oh, good luck. You are filing Chapter 7.
Absolutely.
Oh, you're muted.
I think he's. I think he's
I'm on mute. I got a phone call I got to jump on, so I'm going to sign
Okay.
off. All
fair
All
right.
enough.
right, I'll see you. Nice talking to
Nice to
you.
meet you, Dylan. We'll see you,
Nice to
Hunter.
meet you as well. Well, that was